Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com and use code AUDIO for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com and use code AUDIO at checkout.
Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Today's guest is Anders Larsson. He is the president of the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation since 2015, and he has more than 20 years of experience from the sports management industry. He is also currently a member of the board at the Swedish Olympic Committee. Anders and I were talking about his professional journey, which led him to the top of the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation. We also talked about the decision to cancel the last season, the difficulties due to the coronavirus, and when the Swedish Ice Hockey Leagues can expect a live audience again. I hope you will enjoy this episode with focus on Swedish ice hockey. Anders Larsson, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
We're glad to have you on. So you are the president of the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation. Could you tell us a little bit what this role includes?
Yes, of course. My role, I'm elected president and chairman of the board of the Swedish Ice Hockey Association, which is the body or the organization governing the sport of hockey in Sweden, including grassroots level, kids hockey, all the way up to the national teams and our 40 leagues on national level. So it's the body governing all ice hockey in Sweden.
And how long have you had this role?
In this position, I've been for a bit more than 5 years. I was a board member for 11 years, and then I was elected 2015 the chairman and president, meaning that I'm the person leading the board and also the organization in terms of representing the Swedish ice hockey in different ways and in different organizations and being the elected leader. So it's the 6th season starting now.
I see. If my research is correct, you have been a part of the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation since 1997.
Yeah, it's actually true. And I'm 43 years old now. So reflecting on that, I've been involved on the national level for ice hockey for more than half of my life. And so it's really something more than just a job or position for me. Ice hockey is really a part of my life and way of living. Yeah.
So from 1997 up until today, what different roles have you had and what different responsibilities have you had within the SIF?
In the Swedish Federation at the national level, back in 1997, I was picked or elected the chairman and member of the officiating or referee committee. And I was employed at the office the first years. And so the referee committee was really my path into the organization. And then over the years, I've had different positions. I was elected a board member back in 2004. And from that year, I also started chairing the competition and sports committee. And as I mentioned before, since 2015, I'm the chairman and president. So that has been the main roles. And of course, I've been leading different projects and been involved when we have been hosting different international championships here in Sweden, such as World Juniors, World Women and World Men. So it's many fantastic memories and many fantastic things to be involved in. Yeah.
Your educational background is in industrial engineering. So how come that you transitioned into sports management?
When I studied, I early recognized and realized that I really like mathematics. With that background and that spirit for mathematics, it was pretty easy for me when it was time to go to the university to pick one of the top universities when it comes to engineering and mathematics. And I picked and had the opportunity to go to the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm and studied at the university for a Master of Science degree. So actually it was really my interest and feeling and passion for mathematics who brought me there. That brought me there.
And you have also had some jobs in human resources.
Yeah, that's actually true, which is, some people think it's a bit strange, but of course, engineering and human resources, when you look at it from outside, maybe it looks very different. But what I really like and what made me really going into human resources is that I strongly believe in people and in the power of our organization, and to combine, let's say, technology and people. The area in between is really what can give an organization success. So human resources combined with good technology is really, it's so interesting to see how you can create success with those two parts interacting. And at the end of the day, it's all about people.
So in your current position as the president of the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation, how has these previous experiences in human resources and industrial engineering helped you?
I think everything I've done in my life more or less has made me who I am. And of course, having studied at the university is really important because it gives you some very important skills and experiences and knowledge and the ability to think in different ways. But of course, working with human resources is about growing organizations, developing people, creating successful teams, and that's really important as well. So those two areas have been very important for me, and really is a part of my career, and it has influenced me a lot. But in that context, I also wanted to talk about what the sport has done to me. I've had different leadership roles. I've been a referee in ice hockey. So the experience of leadership within sport has been very important. And that's good with the sports because as a young person, you can take on leadership positions very early in sports. As a sport, we are really a kind of a leadership school, I would say, for young people.
And now you are the leader for Swedish ice hockey. And this last year has been one of a kind. And I think it started with that you had to hire a new secretary general.
Yes, that's true. We are actually changing the general secretary position, and Johan Stark is joining our federation in 3 weeks. So now we are in a bit of a gap between him and Tommy Bostedt, who has been with us for 19 years as the head of hockey development and recently 6 years as the general secretary, which is the head of the office and the operational things in our organization. So that role is really key for our organization, but for me as chairman and president as well.
How was the recruitment process?
From my point of view and from the board point of view, it was very important to involve a lot of people. I actually started in my role as president to interview our office employees to really get an understanding of what they think is important, what they see as key characteristics for a new general secretary. We made the same exercise, of course, within the board, from my point of view, being the chairman and president as well. And with that job being done, we started the process together with a recruitment company. And it was so nice to see, and I was so happy to see that so many strong candidates applied for this position. And we had a lot of interviews and testing. And finally, we were able to hire Johan Stark.
You said before that it's an important position.
Yeah.
How will you make the transition period go as smooth as possible in between Tommy Bostedt and Johan Stark?
Since we announced that Tommy is leaving in April and Johan is joining now in October, it has been really up to a lot of people, including myself, to step up and take on more responsibility and so on. And within a couple of weeks, as I said, October 1st, Johan is joining. So I think it's like a hockey team or a sports team. I mean, it's not only the coach or one person doing it. It's a team effort. And especially these days when he's leaving, other people have stepped up.
I see. So it's a teamwork.
Yeah. And I think it's not only on the ice and in the locker room we are acting as teams. I mean, we are a big hockey family, everybody being together, and we need to have the team spirit also at the office, in the board, and it's a way of working. It's a way of doing ice hockey, I think.
That's for sure. If we talk about the coronavirus and the effects that it's had, if we start from last season, it ended quite abruptly. In the end, what made you take the decision to cancel the season?
Let me first of all say that it was not, on one hand, not an easy decision, because if you love the game of hockey, and everybody involved in ice hockey knows that the period from March through April and to May is really the period with all the national championships, all the international senior championships, etc. It's really the best part of the season. So of course it doesn't feel good to stop the season and end the season from a hockey point of view. But on the other hand, it was a very, very easy decision. I mean, the virus took over everything, and we had lockdowns in different countries and restrictions from the government, etc., etc. So it was, from that point of view, an easy one. And when saying easy, I mean, it was really about the health for the players and for safety reasons. It was not a financial decision. It was really based on health and security for people involved and the players.
Yeah, and I think that at least most people agreed with this decision. What was a little bit debatable was for the women's championships, the SDHL, because it could have been only one more game.
Yeah, that's actually true. They had already, the two teams remaining had played a number of games, and only one game was remaining for appointing the Swedish championship gold medalist. But we had to make a common decision covering all ice hockey. If you start making exceptions with one game or one league and so on, then it's not so easy. But of course, one game remaining. But talking just particularly about the women's championship, we also had some in one of the teams, some of the players, or at least one player, as far as I remember, there was a discussion: is she having corona? Is she infected by corona? So there was also some uncertainties around that particular game. But with that being said, it was important for us to make a common decision that we close down the season, all levels and all, both for men and women.
So now if we look forward to this season, Sweden as a country had a different approach in contrast with the other European countries that we did not have a lockdown. Now, when we are looking ahead, I know that you met with the Minister of Sport. What information did she give?
The tricky thing with this coronavirus, I think, is that nobody really knows, not even the experts. But what is important now, as I see it, is the leadership to be responsible and try to think far ahead with different scenarios and so on. Of course, we discussed a lot with our Minister of Sports about the need of sport, why sport is important in the society and why it's important for people. And of course, we mustn't convince our Minister of Sport, Amanda Lind, because she really knows sports and she loves sports. But it's important to remember that we play a very important role in our society for a lot of people. Of course, we also discussed how to prevent and take responsibility from the sport, how to prevent the virus from continuing closing down and affecting us so much. It's important that we as a sport show responsibility, and we really showed her what we are doing. We actually have some protocols with the guidelines and instructions for teams and players, what to do with distancing in the locker rooms, etc., etc. So that was important. And of course, we also discussed and talked about the possibility to bring in audience in the arenas, especially on the elite level. It's key for the atmosphere, but also for the business of the clubs to be able to bring in audience. And the restriction so far is 50 people, but there is a discussion and direction coming now. Hopefully we will be able to, from October 1st, opening up for more and more audience, but it's important with the responsibility. And so that kind of meetings are very important for us as a sport, to meet the representatives of our government and to be able to discuss them. But we must remember that, of course, we want to open up, but that being responsible is even more important.
So no certain dates or decisions regarding when you can bring in more than 50 people to the stadiums?
No official decisions so far, but our government has been very clear that they want to do something from October 1st. And our authorities, when it comes to health, has recommended to go up to 500. So we will see if that recommendation becomes the government decisions within the next days. That most probably it will. But 500 is still very much far away from the numbers we are used to have in the arenas, like 10,000, 12,000 and so on. But at least it's important for us to see a direction that gives some spirit and that you really see the steps in the right direction. But of course, with that being said, it will be a very tough season for our top-level clubs. And when talking about the top-level clubs, it's easy to just focus on the team playing, but the top-level clubs are big clubs with a lot of teams on children's level, youth level, women's team, recreational hockey, and so on. So it's really important with our elite-level clubs because they're doing so much more than just playing games with their senior team. They are really running the hockey in their region.
Yes, and since the teams are organizations that they need to make profit, do you think from a financial standpoint that if the teams are only allowed 50 or 500 people to enter the stadiums, that they will be able to survive?
Actually, if we not are able to play on the top level with any audience, let's say for the full season, it will not work. We need to have the audience in the arenas. But with that being said, as I said before, it's to being responsible is important as well. But I hope that we will be able to open up more and more step by step, starting October 1st, maybe going to 500 or something else, and then taking the next steps. And as you said, I mean, this is important money for the clubs, but all our clubs are investing the money in so many other things like child hockey, juniors hockey, women's hockey, etc. So it's really important, not only for the single teams and the players on the elite level. It's important for a lot of people involved in ice hockey.
Of course. Ice hockey got 95 million Swedish crown from the government, which is roughly 9.1 million euros. Was this enough to cover for the losses, and how was this money distributed across the ice hockey scene?
Yes, our government decided back in March to support the sports in Sweden with 500 million Swedish krona additional to the regular support for the period of March through June. And recently, our government has also made a new decision to support with 1 billion Swedish krona for the period of July through December. So, but talking about this first period, it was important money, 95 million Swedish krona, of course, but it did not cover the losses at all. The level of the losses were something like 250. So the support from the government was very, very important, but it covered like 35% of the loss. And the way it was distributed, our government gave the money to our sports confederation, which is the organization including all different sports. And together in the sport family, I was a member of the group working on this. We tried to find a way of splitting the money in a fair way to small clubs, grassroots level, up to the elite level. So I think it was done in a fair and fast way, and it was very important for sports in general, but especially for us in ice hockey.
So because of the circumstances that we are living in now, many teams are budgeting for losses. There has also been a debate previous years about the elite license. Will the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation be more lenient this year towards the capital that the teams need to have from a financial standpoint due to COVID-19?
Yes, as you said, I mean, we have a special license system for the top level leagues, and that includes the financial status and the level of financing in the clubs. But we, before or prior this season, we adjusted the way of using the system. And of course, we need to understand that we are in very different situations. So the intention for next season is to use the same system as we did this summer, meaning that we didn't look into the equity level of the clubs. Because it's now, I would say that we can have different measurements, but now it's, I would say the focus is to survive now for the clubs. It's a very tough season we are facing, and so with that being said, I don't think it makes sense to have an elite license system with a lot of other requirements on the clubs. But of course, when we do the elite license check at the end of April, of course, the clubs need to be in good standing financially, etc. But we have taken away the levels of equity.
So you were mentioning it briefly before, but when hockey starts again, how will the SIF help to ensure the safety of the players, staff, and audience in the arenas?
We have made some protocols, and those protocols are based on governmental recommendations and from the authorities, the recommendations given by the authorities. Through our sports confederation, we have adjusted those into sports, and we as an ice hockey federation, we have looked into what does this mean for ice hockey clubs. So we have a special protocol for youth and kids hockey. We have another one for the rest of the hockey, juniors, seniors, etc. And we have a separate protocol also for audience to make sure that everybody in the clubs knows what to do and how to do it, to be responsible and really make sure that we do everything we can to prevent this virus going forward. But of course, we have seen the last weeks that despite that we are having these protocols, there can be virus in teams, etc. But we need to really, really do everything that we can. And these protocols are important for tools for the clubs, so they really know what to do and how to do it in a way that our authorities recommend.
Yes, because there were incidents during the preseason. For example, when two teams from Hockeyallsvenskan met and the cases spiked after that. Was that because the teams did not follow the protocols, or was it simply bad luck?
First of all, I will say that I don't know all the details around these specific cases, but as far as I know, the clubs have been working according to the protocol. And with that being said, that really shows that the protocol doesn't mean that we are 100% safe, but the protocols mean that we are doing what we can. But these cases that happened last week really shows that we need to be humble. We need to be ready that there can be virus in one team or more than one team during the season. And therefore, we're working on special recommendations how to deal with the games if this happens during the regular season. That those guidelines will be decided and formalized within the next days. So because we need to be very responsive as an organization, but as I said, also to be humble, because we really don't know what kind of challenges we will meet throughout the season. The only thing we can do for now is to prepare as much as possible. And from that point of view, these protocols and guidelines are key to start. But I would not be surprised if we throughout the season need to make some adjustments within these protocols when we know more about the virus, when we know more about bringing in more audience, etc., etc.
Of course. There are new information coming all the time.
Yes, and that's the tricky thing. It would have been easier if you know that everything is over January 1st or something, but it's like an open end, so you don't know exactly where we are going, and nobody knows. So that's the tricky thing with this virus. Yeah. And it's, of course, it does not only affect us in sports. It's affecting a lot of things, of course. So we need to understand that. But however, it's tricky to plan the season and be ready, because we don't really know what to prepare for.
You're talking a lot about the importance of being responsible. And if we leave the COVID-19 for a while and we're talking about the CSR, corporate social responsibility, what is the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation doing in regards to CSR?
First of all, I think it's important to take, maybe when talking about this, one step back and look on what ice hockey is doing for the society itself. Because our way of running kids hockey, recreational hockey, hockey for men and women, bringing people together, really creates a good society. So I would say that sports in a way is like a social responsibility thing itself. But with that being said, I mean, ice hockey is such a popular sport in Sweden. We have a lot of fans. We are having a lot of players in the organization. We have a lot of people looking on what we are doing. Therefore, it's important for us also to show, based on our values and our principles, that we take more responsibility than just doing the ice hockey. So we have various projects that we are involved in. It could be some smaller initiatives up to larger things, and so it's important for us. But we try to move around a bit to show that ice hockey can be, our values are important in many different areas.
The women's ice hockey in Sweden has improved the last couple of years. How important is the equality between the men's and women's teams on all levels, from the national team down to the club teams? And what is the ISF doing to ensure the gender equality?
As you said, the women's hockey has improved a lot. We see more and more clubs putting the female and women hockey on their agendas. The number of young girls joining ice hockey has increased dramatically the last years. With the top league, SDHL, we have the best league, women's hockey league in the world. But we also are struggling a bit. We must be humble and realize that we are struggling a bit with our national team. that was relegated to Division 1A. So we are not on the top level with the national team, but we see a lot of good things happening. And when talking about equality, it's important to first of all make the statement, I think, that everybody in our organization should and must be treated in the same way, despite you are a man, woman, boy or girl, or etc. But of course, on the top level, there are differences commercially between men's and women's hockey, and will be for sure for some more years. But the development we have seen when it comes to the top league level on the women's side looks really promising. And the top league is the best league in the world, and it's getting more and more broadcasted. We see more and more partnership between companies and the league, and so we are really developing. But from a hockey association point of view, the key is, I would say, the foundation, that we treat boys and girls exactly the same way, that we support the top league to continue the development of their business, I would say. And then, of course, also putting more and more effort into the national team, because we know that the national teams really influencing the interest of ice hockey, and young kids can see senior players playing and thinking that maybe I will end up in the national team one day. So it's very important for inspiration and for the passion of the game, etc. So we are doing a lot of things on different levels, but if we look at it in total, it has developed a lot. And I'm so happy to see the number of young girls joining ice hockey increasing so much.
Yeah. That's definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure.
If you see both men's hockey, women's hockey and junior hockey, how good is the Swedish teams in comparison with the rest of the world?
On the men's side, I would say that we are really competitive with a strong player development model in place in our country. And that about 10% of the players in NHL are fostered here in Sweden. So on the men's side, we are really strong and competitive, and then all championships we are going to, we are really fighting for the medals. And then, of course, the gold medal is the best one. On the women's side, we are struggling a bit, to be honest. And we were relegated from the top level last time the tournament was played, and we are struggling a bit. It's important for us, and we are doing different initiatives to come back and go back to the top level. And of course, at the end, we want to play for the medals on the women's side as well. But with that being said, I think it's important that we really build the women's hockey from the beginning, because it's the foundation is the number of kids joining hockey. So as we discussed earlier, the number of young girls joining ice hockey really tells me, at least, that we will be much more competitive going forward.
Talking about going forward, if we look ahead now for Swedish ice hockey, there are many exciting events coming up in the next 5 years. Sweden will host the Under-18 Women's World Cup, the Men's Junior World Cup, the Men's World Cup, and it's also the 100-year anniversary for the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation.
Yeah, it's like, when you like ice hockey, it's like some fantastic years in front of us, like a journey for future, or you can talk about it in many different ways. So I personally strongly believe that these years will make a lot of change for us. It's an opportunity to create broader interest for ice hockey and to bring more people to the arenas and to put ice hockey even more on the agendas, etc. So if we do this well, and we are really planning and trying to prepare as much as possible, I hope that we will see even more spectators in the arenas afterwards and more kids joining the hockey and so on. So it's really exciting. The big world championships and having those in your own country. And meanwhile, that, as you said, celebrating our 100-year anniversary. It's fantastic, of course, to look back on what has happened over the 100 years. But even more important, I think, to make a big step and looking forward for the next 100 years. So exciting times, important times, but with that being said, it's also a lot of job for people involved. For me, of course, but even more for a lot of people at our office and out in the organization. So exciting times.
Exciting times indeed. Where do you see Swedish ice hockey if you see 5, 10, 15 years ahead?
I hope and want to see Swedish ice hockey even larger in terms of number of players, audience going to watching games, and of course the financial status of the organization total. But I also hope and see that we have really made some important steps when we talk about women's hockey. That women's hockey has increased in numbers of players and the possibility for more players being professional ice hockey players on the women's side, of course. That's some key things for us. And talking about the World Championships, of course, I hope that we are, and then we see that I strongly believe that we will be back on the top level on the women's side. And I hope that we can make the right steps now. Our hockey development guys are really working on this to make sure that we adjust our player development model now so we can be as successful with the players also in the future and compete about the medals. I mean, we have 10% of the players in NHL from Sweden currently, but we need to make the right steps now to also have that in the future. So I hope and see that we will continue being competitive also on the international level.
I hope so too. You are also involved with the Swedish Olympic Committee. What is your role there?
Yes, that's true. I was elected for 3 years ago as a board member of the Swedish Olympic Committee. And from a Swedish point of view, when talking about Olympic Games and the Winter Olympic Games, of course, ice hockey is one big sport that is part of the Olympic family. So I was very happy to be elected and being part of the board for the Swedish Olympic Committee. I mean, the Olympic movement is fantastic, and we really know what the Olympic Games and the Olympic movement mean for sports and for inspiring kids to start doing sports, etc. So I'm very happy and proud to be part of the Olympic Committee board.
I understand that. So with all this experience that you have, what would be your best advice for young people that aspire for a sports management career?
Oh, it's a good question. But as we mentioned earlier, sports is a really fantastic leadership school, I would say. If you, as a young person, want to remain in the sport and work with sports management and take on broader and more important leadership roles, I think it's key to take on leadership roles early. I mean, the sport is fantastic because you can become a coach or some kind of a leader very early for young kids and starting testing your leadership skills. And so that's one thing I would recommend, to try to take on some leadership roles. It mustn't be something very big, but start doing it, because if you do something, you become better. That's one thing. And secondly, be eager to learn, because you always learn new things, and it's important to listen, to learn, to read. And I think it's important to be eager to learn. And of course, the third thing from my point of view is education. It's very important that you become educated in a good way, because currently sport it's not just sport, it's business, it's being part of the society. It's many of the sport management roles are very business oriented nowadays, and of course the foundation and the target is very much related to sports, but there are so many other perspectives, like the commercial perspective, like running a business perspective, being part of the society, as I said. So education. So 3 things: take on leadership roles young, if possible, be eager to learn, and make sure you do your best efforts to be educated in a good way.
Sounds like great advice.
I believe in those, at least, yeah.
Is there something that I haven't asked you that you would like to mention?
There is, of course, a lot of things to discuss when talking about leadership. But one thing that I think is important in sports in general, or in leadership in general, maybe, is it's really to think, when you are a leader, having a role, if you're a coach for a team or anything, it's make sure that you treat everybody in the same way and see everybody. I think that's the foundation. I meet a lot of people thinking a lot about what is leadership, what is important. And of course, you can describe that in many ways and think in many ways, but never forget to see everybody and treat everybody or try to treat everybody in the same fair way. That's the foundation for me, at least.
Yeah. Final question. If you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think that I should interview?
Oh, that's a good question. We have so many interesting and inspiring leaders on different levels in Swedish sport. But if I had to pick someone, I would have picked some of the female leaders, maybe like Pia Sundhagen or some. I mean, those have been been very successful, of course, but also they have been like breaking new ways, becoming, especially in team sports, female leaders. Now, today it's more common, but within ice hockey, I would mention like Pia Sterner, for example. She was one of the first really female hockey coaches. So that would have been interesting, I would say. But there are many. There are many, of course, but I would have picked one of those. Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking your time and that you wanted to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to join, and thank you for a good conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Sports Management Podcast. Do you have thoughts or ideas about this podcast, or do you know someone that I should interview next? Please reach out to me on sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or visit my website sportsmanagementpodcast.com. If you prefer social media, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram @sportsmpodcast.